Hello and welcome back to Clownfish TV. It is me, Geeky Sparkles, and it is just me for this video because Kneon went to go see the Dark Crystal with our daughter, and he isn't back yet. So I'm doing a couple of videos until he returns. For this video, we're going to talk about the whole situation with AI in Hollywood. They're really worried about this Tilly Norwood AI actress. I'll show you a picture here. Like, you see her at different places. Like, Hollywood's kind of freaking out about this fake actress Tilly Norwood, and they're going into negotiations soon for different unions, because I think the DGA, the Directors Guild of America, and then we're going into next year into like the SAG-AFTRA and WGA again and all that stuff. We're heading into it, and now there's this big AI issue, you know, looming over everything. They're trying to get protections from it, and what does that mean? So it's going to be a slippery slope, but it's going to be an interesting thing because copyright hasn't really been established yet on this stuff. Whatever, I'm going to tell you right now, whatever copyright laws happen will obviously benefit the studios and the rich. They always do. But we don't even have a real set of rules yet in this. And they're moving into it ahead, wondering what's going to happen. If you can have AI actresses or actors replace everyone, that's a problem. Because, you know, especially with the unions, because they don't get money from that. Unless they can find a way to, you know, demand dues, and then maybe they'll be fine with it. And they're also talking about how the AI is going to impact Hollywood as far as like actors, you know, scanning themselves now. Do the studios keep it? Do they lose the footage? Do they delete it? And different things, you know, along those lines. So they're having a bunch of discussions ahead of these union things. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a complete shit show again, I guarantee it. So before we get into it any further, please like and subscribe. If you do, I'll give you a woohoo, woohoo. And we're going to talk about this. Another thing I want to mention about AI before we get started is, you know, again, all of our electric bills keep going up and up and up and up to pay for these AI farms, all this electricity for these locations that somehow the studios, the companies that own them aren't having to pay for it. The general public is, which I think is absolute dog crap. So if we start having these AI Hollywood studios pumping stuff out, how much more is that going to raise prices on the normies? Because, you know, they never have to pay for it. It's always the plebs or tax breaks or something stupid like that. So, you know, as a person that's not in these unions, I also protest for the fact that I don't want to pay for your shit. Anyway, so we're going to talk about this. If anybody's seen the show, you know, I'm not as into the AI as Kneon is. Both of us agree AI is a great tool if you're training it on your own things. And that's where we're having some questions come up in this too, is what is it trained on? So Hollywood's flipping out. Negotiations are coming up. They're heading into next year with all this stuff. So they're worried about Tilly Norwood. They said that it's a difficult situation, and the union did not get anything on completely synthetic characters in the last round, meaning they aren't going to get any money for Tilly Norwood. But maybe they will this time. So I guarantee you, we're going to see in the next union negotiations, it's either going one of two ways. They're either going to do everything they can to block this so that their people get protected, or, which I think less likely, but if they do, it's kind of really, really funny. They might go all in on it and demand dues and, you know, payment to, you know, be the person that represents these fake AI actors and actresses. My money's more on the first one than the second one. But the second one happens, it's going to be really interesting, and I'll get a box of popcorn and sit back and watch it. So, they're talking about this one handle, and Miss Sean Nolan, who's this lawyer. He's a managing partner of intellectual property law firm. They shared their perspective during a panel at the Infinity Festival in Los Angeles. They said digital scanning of human actors for the purpose of using their likenesses, I can't read today, in film and TV projects is a tricky area for the unions, given how untested the legal questions are. I actually have a client right now whose body's being scanned, he said. What I received from the company was sort of a standard certificate of engagement. It was all right, just like you would normally use. And I said, well, what are you going to do with the data? What's the scope of the use? Like, you ask questions, like, are you going to delete the data? Are you going to keep the data? And then it's bringing all these questions up, like, what are they going to do in the future? Because it's not going to be the same as it always was. You have to start asking questions. You know, they said, how are you going to use it? What are you capturing? How long do you have access to it? Is it an indefinite you have access? Do you destroy it afterwards? And then they said, how's this going to apply to actors who might have something done now, they're scanned, and 20 years from now, the studio might come back and say, hey, let's reboot this and use your scans from before. So do they have the right to keep those scans for 20 years in case a celebrity wants to do it? Or should they just destroy it without the celebrity's permission? It's like, what are you going to do? So these are things they're going to have to figure out moving forward, not to mention the copyright issues, what you're talking down here. Another vexing area is they have a bunch of unproduced screenplays whose copyrights are owned by the studio and streamers. So they paid for them. They probably paid to option them. And could they use this to train AI models without paying the writers? You know, can they just, because they already owned them, they didn't turn it into the series or movies they were going to, but they're sitting on them. Do they have the right to do that? So they said the union, you know, as of 2.5 years ago, didn't address this. So what about retroactivity? They said this might come up again next year because of all this. It'll be very hard fought because, you know, it's obviously a big potential source of monetization for companies, but also something that, you know, okay, well, if you're going to do that, just like when you run a movie, you got to pay residuals. So if they would use these things to train AI, they're trying to claim that you owe people residuals for using it to train AI. It's a whole lot of up in the air is what it is, because we don't even know what can be copyrighted or not, because we have Disney and Warner Brothers and Universal out there suing AI companies over using their IP to generate videos, to generate images. And some of them are really bad, and some of them are pretty close. Like, I mean, less than 25% different. And they're suing because they're like, you don't have the right to use our characters, our IP for that. But these are also the same companies who are going to want to change copyright law that if something's generated with AI and they're the ones generating it, they get to own it all. Where right now, if something's generated with AI and it's not a copyrighted character or there's a brand issue, you know, that can't be they can't be copywritten. So if I would generate an image with AI, I can't copyright it. But the studios are going to make sure they can. And that's a whole nother, you know, bag of worms. What's going to happen here? I can tell you who's going to win. Who's going to win is the studios and the unions, and everybody else is going to be like told to not be able to use it or use it on your own stuff only. The use of generative AI tools in production is also problematic because there are different copyright issues, which we talked about. Text submitted to a model like OpenAI, Sora, for example, an output, a video that's produced as a result. So is the text submitted copyrighted? Is that what you're trying to argue? The trouble and the confusion is that the technology and the workflow have advanced so quickly and are going to continue to advance. There can be 100 of prompts and revision of prompts resulting in video sequences with some resemblance to protected work, but the eye is sometimes in the beholder. This is going to force at some point more nuanced court decisions, yes, and it's going to be very difficult to figure out where the line is. So I think what they're trying to argue is, you know, can things be copyrighted if they're human involvement by the prompts? Because a human gave it the prompts and developed it, and they put all this involvement into it, and then they're making sequences, and it's going to be a protected work. It's going to resemble a protected work, excuse me. And then they're going to be like, where's the line for the courts? And that's what I'm saying. We don't know what can't be copywritten right now. So it is a very interesting time because celebrities, Hollywood's losing their shit. Like, they're like freaking the heck out. Like, studios are going after everybody who has anything remotely looking like their stuff on it. Actors are losing their crap. You had Amy Poehler doing a Saturday Night Live monologue talking about, you know, how AI sucks, and Tilly Norwood and all this other stuff. They are just like freaking the freak out because they're afraid it's going to come for their biscuit. You know, it was okay when it was abstract and going for everybody else's biscuit. It was okay when like people were losing their jobs and you're told to learn to code and all that. That was okay. But now that it's coming for them, now it's a problem. Yeah, they're talking here about the media, like I said before, about they're suing people. And it's basically a business environment defined by uncertainty. Exactly. The way that you've operated the past year, 5 years, the past 10 years, you cannot assume that the business environment in which you can operate moving forward, a lot of the foundations and assumptions that you have been relying on, you cannot rely on them moving forward, which is why Hollywood's losing their shit, why these actors and actresses are losing their shit. Because if you mouth off, okay, for example, the Jimmy Kimmel situation, Hollywood had a meltdown. They were demanding everybody cancel Disney Plus. Disney had to like apologize and put it back on the air and everything else. Now, if it was a few years from now and there's contract agreements in place, you know, as Disney has more and more time, isn't it a lot easier just to have AI, you know, do a lot of the work for different things and not have these actors and actresses that are going to run their mouth? the people that you're paying and are working on stuff for you currently are out there telling everybody to boycott you because, they can because they're them. It's a lot easier to have Tilly Norwood come in because she's not going to say anything you don't want her to say. She's not going to go out on social media and run her mouth off. She's not going to constantly be politically pickled and just go on and on about politics 24/7 on their own personal thing. We're not going to have a situation where they're going to have to fire somebody and then get, or fire somebody unfairly and get sued for it publicly, like with Gina Carano, because they'll use fake actors. And they're easy to control. It's literally like, it's a puppet. It's a puppet that they can control every aspect. And if Disney wants anything, it's always control. And the unions are going to do everything they can to prevent that from happening because they want their cut. So and what's going to eventually happen is they're going to stall it out as long as possible. And then eventually it's going to be, they're just going to cave and be like, okay, well, we want dues for those. Whoever owns the actor has to pay dues. Because eventually, I think both things are going to happen. I think it's just going to be one's now, one's down the road. Because they want that money. They're already wanting to try to get into YouTube and podcasting and everything else to try to get more money because they don't have enough as it is. So eventually, when AI actors, if they become a thing that is not going to go away, I guarantee you they're going to try to find a way to get money and make you unionized. They're mad about James Earl Jones selling the rights to his voice. His family has the rights to use it, and they were letting them put stuff in Fortnite. And then the union was super pissed because they weren't getting a cut, and their actors that are still in the union the voice that sounded likes weren't getting the gig. So it's going to be interesting because Hollywood, the studios are the bank never loses. The studios aren't going to lose, but it's going to be interesting to see what the celebrities do and how the union negotiations go forward in the next year or two. And even if it's not this one, the one after that, when things are more advanced, I'm curious to see what happens. So, sorry, there's not a lot going on. It's Sunday. It's a quiet Sunday, and this is the best I could do for today. So please comment, tell me what you think. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.